Uncle Dana was saved tonight, everybody. Dana White gets another one. Yeah, good for Dana. Last month was disastrous for Uncle Dana. His golden child, Ronda Rousey, lost to Holly Holm, and he was freaking out because the only thing that was left for the UFC to even remain casual fan base relevance in their company was the notorious one, Conor McGregor. UFC 194, don't get it twisted. It wasn't carried by the fact that Chris Weidman and Luke Rockhold were fighting on this card, or some middleweight matchup between Yoel Romero and Jacare Souza. No, that wasn't selling this card. It was just Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. That was selling this card. And it wasn't even Jose Aldo selling this card. It was Conor McGregor selling this card. And he was the one guy that Dana White needed to come through. And thank the heavens for Dana White, Conor McGregor came through with a well-timed punch that knocked the fuck out of Jose Aldo. Oh, Dana's all happy. UFC 200, all Dana White has the Vaseline out. He's excited for this one. Rousey versus Holm 2 and McGregor versus Aldo 2. Sorry, Frankie Edgar. Take a back seat, motherfucker. You're not getting the next title fight. It's all about politics and money for the UFC at this point. And guess what? McGregor Aldo is that fight. Because everyone's going to say all the defenders, it was one lucky punch. One lucky punch knocked out Jose Aldo. You know, Jose, if he had more time, would have defeated McGregor. And you have all the McGregor fans saying, hey, Jose got knocked the fuck out. Fuck you, Aldo fans. So, you know what? Sorry, Frankie. No, it's only Heel Steven is the one pulling for you. Heel Steven is the only one saying, yeah, we want the answer. Well, guess what? Here's an answer for you, Steven. No, because it's going to be Aldo versus McGregor, too. I mean, if this was a well-run UFC, a UFC that actually had organization and structure like they did in 2008, 2009, 2010, you know, those good years of UFC, we would get the fight of McGregor versus Edgar, which I think is a very interesting fight. You know, Frankie Edgar, you know, people forget, this guy is really fucking good. And, you know, I think he matches up very well against a guy like Conor McGregor. I mean, you know, he can take a lot of shots. Remember that Gray Maynard fight where Frankie was just getting his ass kicked the whole time? He could take a lot of shots. And Frankie Edgar, he's one of the, like, underrated pound-for-pound best fighters, in my personal opinion. So, yeah, in a perfect world, in a well-structured UFC, yeah. But this ain't the well-structured UFC. This is UFC that is looking to get more casual fan bases to look at their product because the Fox deal hasn't been really that well for the UFC. Let's face it. No one's really excited for your Dos Anjos versus Cerrone. I think more people are excited about the co-main event of that card than the actual main event in Sagano taking on Overeem than the actual freaking main event for the lightweight fucking title. And you look at that, the lightweight title used to be a big thing held by big stars like BJ fucking Penn. Oh, Dana White's thanking the gods here. And you know what? Conor McGregor wins. Look, I wanted Aldo to win. I'm not a big fan of McGregor. I find McGregor very stick-in-the-mud boring in my personal opinion. I honestly hate his little persona he puts on. It's very wannabe Chael Sonnen because to me, Chael Sonnen was like naturally witted funny where he didn't have to go like personal insults. Like the only insult that I didn't really like about Sonnen was when he said he would go to Wanderlei Silva's house like a ninja and kill him. That was the only one where I was like, okay, that's not funny. But a black belt from the Nogueira brothers is like getting a Happy Meal toy from McDonald's and all that other crap. That shit's funny. You know, Chael Sonnen, I like that. I liked him. It's just like with McGregor, it's just like, especially with like the internet saying like where one of his trainers was saying, hey, he was disappointed how McGregor was off camera, how McGregor just kind of acted fake off camera. And I really don't like when McGregor, he like hypes up these fights, talk shit. And then all of a sudden after the fight, I respect this man is a good fighter. Hey, man, you know, he's good. And just say he was great champion, blah, blah. It's like, you're just saying this guy was a weak-ass champion, fought nobodies for the longest time, and now he's finally fighting you, and then all of a sudden you turn fake on us, and you just say, hey, you know, he was a great champion. Like, seriously, man, keep with one persona. Chael Sonnen never did that. When Chael Sonnen lost, he would act like he won the fight. That's why I like Chael Sonnen. He kept with his kayfabe character. He kept up with his bullshit. It was good. But Conor McGregor, I don't know. He just turns fake to me. So that's why I'm not really a big McGregor guy. I just feel like he's just there to try to sell fights. And good for him. You know, he wants to make money in MMA, which is, let's face it, one of the hardest sports to make money in. You have to have some charisma, some, you know, kind of pomp and circumstance to kind of get into that title picture scene. I mean, look at it. Conor McGreggor jumped like Cub Swanson, who was on like an undefeated streak, recently lost to Frankie Edgar, duh. So pretty much that, like, he jumped Cub Swanson, even though Cub Swanson was beating fools the whole damn time. So, like, really, to be honest, in the world of MMA and mixed martial arts, you have to be talking to sell the fight. And that's just the bottom line. And, you know, as for the fight between McGregor and Aldo, like I said, it was just a well-timed punch by McGregor. Knocked the fuck out of Jose Aldo. Conor McGregor said it best. It's all about timing, and he timed the fuck out of that punch. Aldo wants a rematch, and fuck yeah, he deserves a rematch. I mean, Dana White, he doesn't give a fuck about structure anymore. Dana White actually cared about structure. I would be surprised if Frankie Edgar got the next title shot. I would be absolutely surprised. Because anytime a champion loses nowadays in the UFC, I'm like, they have no hurdles to overcome. They have no obstacles. They are just going to get an automatic rematch. And that's what hurts the UFC nowadays. I think a lot of UFC and MMA fans don't see that. They just like to say, oh, it's a big fucking fight. No fucking shit. But how much bigger is the fight if we have to actually wait for it? The fight's not big if we get it like the next few months from now. It's just stupid. That's why I hate the UFC nowadays. I remember back in the good old days when someone would lose a title, they would have to work and work and work their way to it. Like when GSP first lost the title, he had to do 2 more fights before getting his title match. It wasn't like GSP was like, oh, automatic rematch against Matt Serra. It wasn't like Matt Hughes got an automatic rematch against GSP. No, it took time for those guys, and that's what we like to see, the journey of these guys trying to get back to the top, or were they really champions or not? You know, that's the type of shit I like seeing. You know, like the only time I'm fine with the automatic rematch is if it's like a guy like a John Jones situation where John Jones, he's just a fucking idiot and he's a dumbass and he got busted outside of something that isn't fighting. And he's trying to redeem himself. And, you know, let's face it, John Jones, even when he was doing dumbass type of shit, he was still dominant as champion. So John Jones is like a guy where I'm like, okay, this guy does deserve an automatic rematch. Did Anderson Silva deserve an automatic rematch for the title? You can make the argument, sure, Silva defended the belt, but you could just tell that UFC was just trying to get a good cash cow out of Silva versus Weidman too, because they're like, fuck, we need to find an interesting fight for that time. But thankfully, McGregor is here to save the day and make the UFC at least relevant for another year. That's pretty much it. But UFC 194 as a whole, I'll say this, I forked over my $60 for it. Nice card. You know, I like it. This was definitely like a card I would throw a fight party for. But I think the fight party itself wouldn't have been that fun because a lot of the fights were just like chess matches, guys trying to figure each other out. Maia versus that one dude in the second fight was a fun little grappling match per se. Romero versus Jacare, minus the first round, kind of whatever. Rockhold versus Weidman, really good matchup between them two. Like I like the third and fourth round. I'm surprised. In the third round, I'm just so surprised that fuck, what was I going to say? In the third round, I am just fucking surprised that Herb Dean did not stop the fight against Weidman because Weidman was protecting himself. Like, for sure, Weidman was definitely had the hands up, but he just was getting demolished the whole fight. So I was just so like, oh my God. Like, I'm just surprised that he didn't call it off at least like 5 seconds left in the fight because, you know, Rockhold, sure, like in the last 50 seconds, he was like mounting and punching the fuck out of Weidman, but then the last 5 seconds, if you watch those 10 seconds again, dude, Weidman was just getting absolutely creamed. So I'm just surprised that Herb Dean didn't stop that fight. Weidman versus Rockhold 2 on deck. Because Dana White can't be original and try to actually give us real title fights or any meaning between these fighters whatsoever because he's a lazy promoter and he likes to go quick, money, because he's lazy. That's why I don't like the UFC that much anymore and why I rarely talk about it because it's a very lazy sport. And it's becoming more like boxing every time I watch it, where it's just, hey, we just need big fights. We don't care about the smaller fights. We will promote the smaller fights on these big shows, but it doesn't really fucking matter at the end of the day because you're not going to check them out. Because as I will watch Lawler versus Conor because I'm a huge fan of Robbie Lawler. But how many of you fuckers are actually going to sit there and watch Lawler versus Conor? All you casuals, how many of you are like, I'm paying my $60 to watch Robbie Lawler? You're not. So yeah, you know, to be honest here, Rockhold winning was a pretty nice surprise for me because I thought Weidman would win this fight, in my personal opinion. Weidman did do a silly move in the spinning leg kick, or the spinning head kick that he was trying to do. I don't know why Chris Weidman's trying to do that, but, you know, Rockhold caught it and took advantage of it, and that just shows what a champion does. They take advantage of situations they can control. So, yeah, you know, good for Luke Rockhold. I thought Weidman was going to win this fight in the 5th round. As I talked about with Aldo and McGregor, You know, this is just going to get a rematch. You know, this fight right there was just a great punch by Conor McGregror. Like, you know, like I said, the Aldo fans out there are going to say, oh, it's one lucky punch, it doesn't count, and all that other crap. But it was a well-timed freaking punch. If you look at the replay, got knocked out silly. That punch was really good, too, because in real time, it looked like Aldo just slipped to the ground and fell. I was like, what the heck happened here? Like, my mom and I had to double take about that, but then once you saw the replay, just flush, just knocked the fuck out of him. And so Aldo's looking for that McGregor money. He's going to get his rematch, and he's going to make big bucks. Dana White's going to be relevant in the sports world for another year. He's hoping Ronda Rousey will do well and win her title back. UFC 200 will be a great show. The only thing that will make UFC 200 even more jizz-worthy for Dana White is the return of Georges St. Pierre. That's the only thing that would make Dana White go, oh, yes, GSP is back. Oh, he wishes Anderson Silva wasn't suspended right now. Dana White wishes Anderson Silva could go, oh, fuck, he would find a way to get Silva on that card. Oh, UFC 200 will be the biggest event in UFC history until the next big fight that Joe Rogan likes to pump up our asses. If you guys wonder why I'm very sarcastic and laugh at the UFC, it's because I remember good times with the UFC. That's why. I'm very critical of the UFC, especially when I used to be a big fanboy of the UFC. And, you know, you just tend to get jaded over certain stuff over many years and stuff like that. Like, when you just watch it and then you have people try to hype you up on shit and you're just like, I don't believe it whatsoever. You know, that's just how I am. But Conor McGregor, good job on him. Congratulations. New Featherweight Champion. UFC is going to be relevant for the next year. But what did you guys think of UFC 194? I thought it was just okay. That's my thoughts on the card. I thought this was another example where sometimes with UFC, they have these big cards, and then they put these matchups on where it's just like, look, I get it. You want to try to showcase some guys, but some of these fights are just chess matches that these guys are just trying to pick each other apart, and they're very slow and very technical. And yes, to hardcore fans like me, I appreciate some of the technicality, but if you're going to freaking bring friends over to watch this fight, the only fight that's worth a damn is probably Weidman versus Rockhold once round 3 and 4 hit, and Aldo versus McGregor, because that KO was fucking gnarly. So, yeah, that's the only fights I would really suggest going back and watching, but yeah, that's it. UFC 194 review. Comment down below your thoughts on this show and this event. Are you guys excited for UFC 200? Because let's face it, that's the only time most of you guys will give a shit about this this again. Oh, Chase, what about Lawler versus Condit? Dos Anjos versus Cerrone? TJ Dillashaw versus Dominic Cruz? Get the fuck out of here. But, Chase, Super Bowl weekend. Velasquez versus Redoom.